The sky once again turns a shade of orange and yellow. Across the forest, lights shine below the canopy of pine trees. The festival to the moon goddess is about to begin. Slowly, its image appears in the night sky, a world of blue seas and green islands. To these ancient people, the moon is not a white and gray cratered body, but a habitable world. Even if for thousands of years humans will never touch it, it will inspire myths, legends, and shape the way that people view the cosmos around them. This is an alternate scenario where the moon is a living world. Okay, I know, this is a crazy idea. Usually when these alternate timelines involving geography are discussed, it comes with a small kernel of truth from the past. The Sahara at one point was green. Antarctica was full of marsupial life and not an icy continent. But the moon, at least as far as our current understanding of it is, was never like Earth, or even Mars. Some papers have suggested that perhaps the moon very briefly had an atmosphere 3 billion years ago, maybe even a magnetic field. Yet, without literally checking the surface for ourselves, we'll never know. Even if it did, tidal locking with the Earth stopped the rotation of the moon, its magnetic field disappeared, and thanks to radiation from the sun, so too did any atmosphere it might have had. That, and since it's just so small, any gases it did have simply dissipated into space. Gravity is important, kids. So yes, everyone, I indeed do know such an alternate timeline is bonkers. But we're in a bonkers time. Let's remove the science from this idea and just go with it. Let's just assume one of those ships from Spores seeded it with a life bomb. Yeah, that makes sense. In this alternate timeline, the moon is a world that is very much like the Earth. A thick atmosphere, an ocean, and potential for life. Just from these conditions, though, it doesn't mean the moon has to be a world of greens and blues. Even for the Earth, early in its history when it had single-celled life, the oceans weren't the blue that we know today. Too much oxygen led to the water itself actually rusting, and millions of years later, bacteria blooms gave the ocean a purplish hue. Or say if there is life, without plants that specifically evolved to contain chlorophyll and reflect away green light, which is how plants have their color, we could see alternate landscapes where the fauna is purple or even orange. It all depends on what exactly the makeup of the moon's atmosphere is, and what organisms are most successful, so why bring this up? Humans are visual creatures. We attribute certain feelings to different colors, and most major cultures throughout the world have included some reverence or worship of the moon since the very first hunter-gatherers. So the way that ancient humans would view the moon depends entirely on the composition and color of its surface. Something that doesn't shift borders or states, but does change the countless myths and pantheons that have existed, even if just by a bit. Say the moon's oceans are red, and its land is barren. The moon is viewed far more negatively. Cultures could say that it's a destination of those poor unfortunate souls, or even the home to dark gods. But if the oceans are blue, and its land is green, the moon could be viewed as the physical home of the gods, a distant paradise that can be achieved by warriors, or even a literal deity in itself. Appearances are everything, is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's interesting and all, but what really is the main effect is another form of myth, how humans view themselves in the context of the heavens. Yes, we all know about the debate between the Earth in relation to the sun, but up until modern times, even the planets themselves weren't viewed as actual worlds like our own. The best we knew of them was that they were just distant balls of light that moved differently compared to the stars. The ancient Greeks, for instance, believed that planets were made of incorruptible material, a part of the heavens, and the reason the moon was different was because it was a part of the earthly realm. But if the moon resembled Earth, or ancient people at least recognized that it looked similar to the place they live, that perspective might change. They could have an opinion in a way that's more accurate, but also less so, that the planets and places apart from the Earth could maybe be just as real as the world they live on. Stories and legends about other cultures and people that live in the heavens. Of course, this varies depending on the culture, so let's assume everything progresses as normal up until people can actually land on this alternate moon. The urge to do so is certainly greater than in our own timeline. So whoever lands first, what could they see, perhaps? However you'd imagine life on the moon is entirely up to your own imagination. There is no basis for how these organisms may look, so imagine some pure speculative evolution. What forms of life could take place in an environment a third of the Earth's gravity? For example, every vertebrate land animal has 2 arms and 2 legs, not only because terrestrial organisms evolved from some distant ancestor that had 2 arms and 2 legs, but because on Earth's gravity, this is the most successful way of getting around. But in the moon's weak gravity, life doesn't need to follow the same general body plans we take for granted. 2 arms and 2 legs, for instance, certainly don't need to be the norm. Taller, thinner species with less appendages could get along just as fine in their own small gravity. Larger plant life, however it may look, could grow far taller. There could be ways of flying about, not even needing what we think of as wings. I know I'm throwing a lot out there, but this is something very real to consider when speculating how life on other planets could operate. It's just in this scenario, those organisms live right on our front door instead of light years away. Yes, this would bring about a lot of questions and have a lot of answers, but that's greater philosophy stuff. We all know that if the moon was basically a miniature Earth, concepts of life on other worlds isn't going to be the main focus of actual nations. Nah, the only thing humans really care about most of all is that there is a place with abundant land, resources, and a good position to one-up their rivals. The race to create better technology to get to the moon and protect said colonies and resources. Space, even in our immediate neighborhood, instantly becomes militarized. The perspective that our society currently has on space travel, spread out for the betterment of mankind, explore new worlds for science and knowledge, this is going to sound pessimistic, but that only exists because we don't have the current technology to build massive bases or extract specific valuable resources from far-off worlds. Only difference in this scenario is the space race doesn't end once man lands on the moon. The floodgates are now opened, the New World colonization pumped up to 11. So why would the moon be so important outside of petty rivalries? Even in our timeline, it's one of the most valuable pieces of land in the solar system for humans. One of the most expensive barriers to space travel is just leaving Earth's gravity. Fuel's expensive. However, if a nation did, say, have a moon base, the investment right off the bat is expensive. However, it'd make launching ships to other planets far cheaper and easier. Even if the moon in this scenario does have an atmosphere, the moon will become something like a giant harbor. At first, a stepping stone for future colonization of Mars, in what was once simply a mysterious place orbiting the Earth, becomes another center of competition. I'll leave it at that, because, like I said, such a scenario is crazy. Just the simple change in appearance of the moon directly impacts the stories that humans tell themselves. The race into space would be less a collective effort and more the same drive for conquest we've always seen. Maybe it's a good thing our moon isn't seen as the most attractive piece of property. Our exploration of far-off places, as of now, is still in the name of science and discovery. It's one to ponder, imagining how instead of seeing a cratered ball of white and gray, we'd instead see an entire alien world in the night sky. A tease of what could be to come. This is Cody of Alternate History Hub.
Oh boy, being locked inside sure is a lot easier while being online.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But your identity might not be.
Please stop breaking into my house.
This video was sponsored by NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/althis to get 70% off a 3-year plan, plus 1 extra month for free.
I'm not gonna ask what NordVPN is, you already can't.
Well, I'm glad you asked. NordVPN is a virtual private network, a service that has thousands of servers in 60+ countries.
Using it is simple. Just log on and browse the internet in safety without fear of your privacy being violated. I'm leaving, I'll take my chances outside. It's available on not just PC and Mac, but also Apple and Windows phones as well. You can use it with 6 different devices simultaneously, and even bypass firewalls of those pesky governments who may or may not be totalitarian regimes. Turn off the lights when you leave. If you want to try NordVPN out today, just click on the link in the description below and use the code ALTHIST to get 70% off a 3-year plan and 1 extra month for free. Go to nordvpn.com/althist.